think we're ready to call a meeting to order of the ALCOSAN Advisory Committee meeting. I'd like to, Stevie, if you could do a roll call for us.
Good afternoon, all. Cindy Bond.
Present.
Lisa Ward Brown. Present. Lloyd Cunningham. Dan DeMarco. Patricia DeMarco.
She says we're here.
Tina Ducey. Ariam Ford Graver. Nick Greashawk.
Here.
Mark Heckman.
Here.
Kelly
Here.
Taylor Sada.
Here.
Ruth Ann Omer. Will Pickering. Mary Ellen Remick. Here. Tim Rogers. Matthew Sapp.
Present.
Danielle Francesca.
Here.
John Alfonso Wells.
Here.
Hi.
Hello, everybody.
Ted.
Unfortunately, we do not have a quorum. We need 11. Everybody,
Even with a couple openings?
we don't have, we thought we filled those all.
No, I don't. I think we still have one.
Well, we were. Three?
JR resigned.
Okay. Well, let's figure out our.
And I think there was one that we could.
Yeah, there's
See that
So out of 21, how many do we have? Currently filled.
currently filled. Sounds like 19. 19.
Okay, then we do have a quorum.
All right. Thank you, Solicitor. Thank you.
Yes.
I'd like to entertain a motion for approval of the minutes from the January 25th meeting.
So moved.
We're gonna have a first by Vaughn, second.
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 Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? All right, moving on, we're going to do little updates on the working groups that have been meeting since we set that program up earlier this late last year. So we could start with, doesn't matter which committee, who's everybody. Well, Gru, okay, what's the first one? Oh, we're okay. All right, so I'll go.
So we started the meetings with Bro about, and with a lot of discussion about equity in the disbursement of the projects and funding. And Tim and his team did a really great job of digging deep into the data and coming back to the committee with the information that we needed to really have some robust discussions. And so we discussed you know, the issues around that many of the projects, even though they were widely dispersed within the county, they seem to be concentrated in a lot of the wealthier communities as opposed to the communities that you could designate as environmental justice communities in our region. And so this was a real attempt to try to create some conversation around those issues and to come up with some possible solutions. So we, you know, we got the background. I mean, all of you have seen the background on Grow. You've seen the number of projects. You've seen all of that information. And, you know, Tim really gave a great overview at AWOM. So if any of you were there, you saw it. I don't want to go into detail because we've all seen it. But I did want to talk about what we thought as far as how we can start to improve this program and get more communities that don't have the match, for instance. You know, they want to do a program, but they don't have a match. And so what can we possibly do to make that happen? Because there's a third of the money is left, correct?
I have a quick question. How many EJ communities are in the ALCOSAN service area? Do you know?
What's the threshold?
Well, there's like 13 different definitions of environmental justice communities.
Well, I would say I could probably list off 20.
Okay.
Right off.
And out of those 20, how many have not received money? Just a swag,
Not received money?
not received funding for the projects.
Probably a third of that.
Okay.
And then the 2/3 probably received one,
Okay.
maybe 2 grants. You might have one community that has received more, but for the most part, Lisa hit it on the head. They don't have the resources to take that step and continually submit applications or letters of interest. They are more, they're more focused on what can we do, and then they'll do it if they have to.
Mhm.
It's never
It's not aspirational.
exactly.
Yeah, so we had long discussions about this, and one of the things that I thought about, and I think we had some significant discussion about that even though, you know, I don't want to bring up a sore spot, but you know, the relationship between ALCOSAN and the foundations has not always been that cordial. However, the foundations have always been willing to put forth matching funding for projects that are partially funded by DCMR or DEP or the Army Corps. And so so if the communities were looking into having a conversation with to start a conversation initially with the RK Mellon to see if they would be willing to make that match for a project that would help a community and that then would allow them to move forward with a project with the grow project. So that's a possibility, and I think that it could be a very good possibility. Jeannie and I discussed about having a meeting with RK and moving forward in baby steps, all baby steps. But we think that that's a possibility. And so that's pretty much the gist of everything that we've discussed over the last 2 meetings. Is there anyone else who was at the meetings that would want to add?
I guess RK is an interesting one, but Hines is the one that's been focused on investment in EJ communities.
Right.
Why not Hines? Because I know several years ago, Hines into all the foundations and they ran on.
The Pittsburgh Foundation actually do a lot more. Yeah,
I think
that all of them are willing, especially now that they have so much emphasis on equity and justice issues and environmental justice in particular. And so I think that they would all be open to this discussion. We were going to start with RK, we could start with Hines, we could start, I mean, I have a very good relationship with Hines, and I think that they would consider a conversation about it.
However, we haven't thought about
The
who keeps the
legality
money,
of all
the legality of all of this.
So, right, yeah.
I think we probably need to talk to the plan about this.
There'd be multiple ways, but it sounds like if it is really just linking up the foundation and the municipality,
Yeah.
to have the municipality have the funds, put together the application. ALCOSAN's not involved in it except for making that introduction between foundation and municipalities.
Well, Max, then there would be the municipality would have to go through the effort to actually put the application together, make it competitive, right?
Capacity is more than just not the funding. It's not that.
Well,
that
Yeah.
capacity and engineering, the municipality has to have.
The biggest thing is depending on the size of the project. You know, at a minimum, they've got to get through a 60%.
Yeah,
So
60%.
there is reasonable amount of money that the municipality has to put forward. And the question is going to be, is that where the foundations can be supportive of municipality. I mean, a few years ago, Joanne and I put out controlling the source. We identified a ton of
Oh, yes.
projects. Before that, we put out savings. We identified a ton of projects.
That's right.
And there's a lot of projects in those communities. If the foundation, and we shared that with the foundations and they didn't really do much. And, but if we reopen up that conversation with them, maybe that we can find new partners to help the municipalities. Gross, we have 1/3 of the money left. And we should want to meet those goals on good impacted projects. There's a lot of projects in communities that are outside of where the commons are going to be that I don't want them to miss the boat. Because other communities are jumping on, they can, getting their applications. I think, Braddock's, Circle Creek's, Rankins, that part of the system up Chartiers Creek and some of the neighborhoods in Solomon. They all have opportunities, but they have to just be comfortable to take that opportunity.
Yeah, I think
They don't have the money.
well, and I think the staff capacity, somebody would have to help manage in a lot of those places, those projects, because they do not have the people to do that, which is why they're not applying.
What
In
about
many
if
cases.
a foundation provided a staff person that would work with some of the smaller communities on submitting a grant application?
That would be great.
Or
Because that's-
they pay the engineering firm.
Yeah. Or both.
Or both.
Yeah, I think that's, all of these are really, really great suggestions and worth pursuing. We had a very robust conversation with Braddock the last meeting and, she was very excited about moving forward with some of these possibilities.
And what Lisa and I discussed was her doing the reintroduction for me, and then I would go talk to the foundations.
But if it's the match, let me just play devil's advocate, if it's about the match or dollars to be held someplace, wouldn't it be more interesting to have like the municipalities that Lisa has identified or that Tim has identified that need that dollar to be the ones that are the presenter at the table without saying always as a partner, but it's them that would ultimately get the cash for the match to do the work.
I think this is gonna be a
That's
small
an example that we have. Lloyd's not here. And also took us up on our offer to do the on-call design for that. Homestead had an obligation to put in 25% of the design costs. We absorbed the rest. We got even up to the point where we can do a conceptual design, and they said, no, we don't want to do it. We said, fine, and ALCOSAN took on. But the conceptual design, we showed what we were thinking, they agreed, and we moved forward. But the benefit of that is, well, we also know what Grow needs to get a good match. So we structured a project that maximized, the overflow reduction benefits. Spread out, their storm sewer system to feed into there, so it's not going to combine system. And they got a good match. And then they're able to take that design with the knowledge that there's a good match behind it, and they can then go to whomever they want.
They can help it themselves.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to say that that's over. I would like to be able to have that opportunity again with other municipalities. It was a shame that we didn't have more takers on this wide open offer.
I read our, people didn't show up.
So, yeah, here's the report from Grow. That was wonderful. How about the Clean Water Assistance Fund Committee? Do we have somebody to report on that?
Stevie, who's gonna report?
I'll go on to.
Oh, Sean, you want to report? We're looking at your picture.
Oh. Sorry. Let's see. Here we go. Still seems out of space, so. Hold on, we've been talking about it round and round in our working group. We've been trying to come up with solutions to make sure that all communities are able to take advantage of the money. I'm not sure if we've been able to come up with solutions so that everyone is able to take advantage of the money per se. I'm very new to this, so I'm not quite sure what I should say in the report, to tell you the truth. But I am more than willing to learn, and I'm hanging in there. I see I am one of the ladies at the table. Very proud of that, by the way. I think that I missed the last meeting, but every other meeting I've definitely attended. And Ken, will you help me out for a moment? Because you definitely have so much experience with this.
I'll be happy to do anything I can.
Okay, so is there anything I should specifically hit in terms of what we've been talking about in our working group?
With respect to the little communities, is that what we're talking about?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but the little communities are challenged. And one of the things that came up was ALCOSAN taking a more proactive role in developing projects that little communities could do. Because it just came up a few moments ago that little communities don't have in-house engineering expertise to come up with all these projects. So if ALCOSAN could develop a project and then present it to the community and then work with the community, I think that would be a way to get everyone to participate, especially the smaller communities. It was interesting, at the last meeting, ALCOSAN suggested that it actually develops some potential projects and could share those with the communities, but has not. So maybe if there are some of these potential projects ALCOSAN has already sort of outlined, if they would start sharing with the little communities, maybe the little communities might bite on this.
You're obviously attending many of the community committee meetings, which is awesome. Yeah. He knows all of them. Yeah, I was here.
I went to all of them. I'm the screamer on every one of them. I'm the
Screamer, Ken.
I'm
You bring up
John
really
the
good
Baptist in the wilderness screaming. So
And you have some concerns about the number of
the last meeting, I think, Sean, you're Braddock, right?
Swissvale.
Okay. Well, there was something came up with a potential project that was shared for I think it was Braddock, and Braddock never even knew about this. And I was wondering, has ALCOSAN, in its wisdom, stumbled across a potential project that could be done in Heidelberg? And if that's the case, please let Heidelberg know. Maybe Heidelberg will do that. But I was really taken aback at the most recent meeting that ALCOSAN showed some screenshots of in this part of this Braddock. I think they could take this park and turn it into this and turn it into that. I was excited. I said, has anyone ever done any of that stuff in Heidelberg? I mean, please, I don't know. But anyway, again, I'm going to mute myself, Sean, because my help is probably not what everyone's looking for.
To say, Mayor Ken, that we talked about also having the ALCOSAN staff come out for an event about the Clean Water Assistance Fund.
Yeah.
To make sure that your citizens know about it. We'll work hand in glove with the.
Yeah, Jeannie, that's good. The citizens are not the ones who need to be aware of a project. If there's a shovel-ready project that ALCOSAN thinks, it's the elected officials that need to know. And last but not least, I'll share this as well. One of the reasons why there's not a real push to help the little community. I'm sorry?
I don't think he's hearing us. I don't think he's hearing
No,
us.
and
I remember the very first meeting of the CAP program, we were discussing the assistance to the residents for for their sewer bill.
Yeah.
And you were concerned because there isn't a guarantee that they're gonna pay their sewer bill to the municipality. They're getting money, they're getting assistance from ALCOSAN to them, but then they don't, then you guys are left holding the bag if they don't pay their bill.
Yeah, that is true, because the way ALCOSAN is set up at the communities, there's only 83 customers for ALCOSAN. They're the communities. They're the ones who pay the bills. I agree. But one of the other conundrums that the little communities have, and Tim just spoke about this a moment ago. One of the ways to get a grant through these projects is if you can really contribute to flow reduction into the ALCOSAN system. And the small communities, we don't generate enough flow to even qualify for a grant because we're not really going to be contributing to reductions in the overall system. So if the little communities were to disappear, it would have no net effect whatsoever on the ALCOSAN system. Anyway, I apologize again. I'm going to mute myself, but I still like to be part of the quorum, so I'm here for the quorum.
Yeah, and we appreciate that. Anything else about the Clean Water Assistance Fund? Is there anyone else that was at any of the committee meetings?
I think we also need to, I know I asked my community to make sure that they're applying, and I think they had to get the engineer involved. So I did mention it, I did pass it off, and hopefully they're doing it, but you know, sometimes I think that takes a little bit more on hands management than I'm actually, you know, capable of. I mean, I'm capable of it, to be clear, but sometimes they get a little annoyed when you micromanage their day to day. And so I don't want to have my municipality's hard workers aggravated with me. I did remember seeing some of the pictures that showed what types of projects we could have, and what are some of the caps that they can put on top of it that would help to improve the community and the looks of the community. I was really impressed with those. I was hoping that particularly if we could get some work done, we could have some of those types of improvements given to our community, not just my community, to most of the communities. When it doesn't look like it's a sewer, it always helps people to have that, just mentally being able to see something that doesn't look like a big sewer line, but having something turn into like a park, or, you know, as long as it doesn't smell, right? Because if you have a park that's a little smelly, people are a little suspicious. But if it's something that looks nice and can contribute to the community, I think that does us good. So I will next time probably be a little more prepared with my remarks. So sorry, but doing the best I can, and so glad to join the group.
Sean, your presentation is exquisite. But also at the end of the last meeting, the meeting we're talking about, I think it's the funds that are given to the residents to help them.
Yes.
Yes. After that meeting, I was all excited because I was not even aware that Heidelberg residents were participating. And I heard from the ALCOSAN meeting that, oh, there are people in Heidelberg who are participating in this. So I thought, well, who are they? So our sewer bills are collected by Jordan Tax. I'm sure many communities do that as well. So I contacted them. Could you possibly let us know who these people are so that we can see if there's some people on that list that maybe we could make aware? But it's physically impossible for us to get access to that because I guess it's some sort of proprietary stuff. So I still do not know the names of anyone in Heidelberg who's getting access to these funds, nor do I have any way of knowing if there's anybody in Heidelberg who could be eligible for these funds who's not applying.
Well, one of the things that we talked about on that meeting was how to better communicate the access to the clean water assistance dollars, right? And it's a challenge because that information, while you're applying through the LIHEAP, right? So you apply through LIHEAP, and that should be an automatic kind of, if you get your Duque Light or your gas bill paid for, that the next step should be ALCOSAN. And what I read in the paper, and Jeannie and I talked about this, was, you know, that there are so many people that don't apply for it because they don't know about their eligibility. So I started thinking about this. So when I'm driving down Route 28, Etna has 2 giant billboards, right? And although billboards can be a site for like not cool, there are electronic billboards, and it might be worth it to actually figure out a way, not just about the clean water assistance, but to advertise in partnership with like Duquesne Light or Equitable Gas or whoever it is, because everybody, as we know, is not part of ALCOSAN, even though we want everybody to be part of ALCOSAN. And we all are ALCOSAN. Yeah, let me do that in my last year, because this is how my first year started. We are ALCOSAN, but figuring out a way to advertise in partnership, we're probably picking up some of that stuff. I know, Mayor, not to offer your billboards, but you have a percentage of time that's free.
Yeah.
Right? There are electronic billboards that all over the city that have a percentage of time for free. So it might be worth trying to figure out a way to do that. And then to Mayor Ken's point is getting out into that particular area to be able to do it. Now, this also sounds like almost in light of the current like number of door hangers I've received, is trying to figure out a way to actually go, especially in the communities that we can identify low mod, right? And actually do some kind of, I don't want to say mailing, but some kind of door-to-door in partnership with that particular municipality. Whether or not they want to take that on, whether or not they have volunteers, whether or not they have community or church groups, it really becomes about that community engagement part of it to get the word out in a stronger, repetitive way.
I think too, and I remember we talked about this a little bit. You know, sometimes you have to meet people where they are. Like we're talking about, in our community for this particular program, actually having someone at the food bank that could help them sign up. That go on, there's like one day a month, it's their big shop, and then they have 2 other shops. You know, because I did check and I was able to find out how many people in my community were on it, and you know, it was a pretty good amount, which I was glad to hear. But I think sometimes, you know, people don't read as much as they should, or they think it's political, or they think it's, you know, so I think if you can go to the places where they are and have someone there who, you know, they're not afraid of, like a government person, you know, certainly not a policeman or someone like that, the elected official, just somebody there to help them sign up. You know, yeah, have a table and say, hey, you know, do you know about this program? Well, you have 5 minutes to sit down. Here's some paperwork. If you don't have all that, you can get it here the next week. We'll help you sign up.
You sign up through Dollar Energy then.
Right.
Right, so you have to have somebody that can manage the Dollar Energy sign up, not just the ALCOSAN sign up.
They don't have to talk to us.
Right, but the Dollar Energy sign up. And I think the food bank is a really good idea because Lisa Scales and Ken Regal that run all those types of organizations have access and probably could easily distinguish by zip code.
Yeah.
So you can be really very strategic about how you look at that. And because I think the Clean Water Assistance Program, when ALCOSAN started it, it was super important. It was before PWSA. It was a really nice, it was a nice investment in people. And I think a lot of what stops people is they don't think they qualify, and there's a level of pride, and I get it.
I might not know they're because from the municipality, so they don't really understand that they have access to that.
You gotta apply through Life,
Yeah.
and then once you apply through Life, if you're in the system
Right.
and you get access to every single thing that you're eligible for.
So shall we move on to the next?
Yep,
working
next
group,
one.
regionalization? Yep, regionalization.
Tina, do you say?
Tina, are you on?
No,
Nope. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, Stevie.
Okay. working group met on February 24th. The group recognized the municipal contributors who established the original regionalization program criteria. And that was more than a decade ago. The criteria standards were sewers that collect flow from more than one municipality, sewer lines that are 10 inches in diameter or larger would be considered transferred. The working group discussed the ineligibility of 3 or 4 municipalities that did not qualify to transfer the lines in the regionalization program during the first phase. Group had no recommendations to be made to the advisory committee. The group decided that they didn't have to meet the next time, so.
And we're gonna hear a little later from staff, so we can get another update on that.
So
All right.
flow reduction working group.
And who is that?
That was Ken Russell.
Ken, were you gonna report on the flow reduction?
Flow reduction?
I'll report progress. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good, Ken, thank you.
You're welcome.
Construction enhancements.
That, I have that here.
Tell that.
Yes, so our group met on March 17th, 2023. And so we were talking about the green enhancements that will come at the end of the proposed tunnel system that's being designed for the wet weather combined component of stormwater flow into the systems. We were told it would be 6 to 7 years before we would even be able to start thinking of installing green enhancements, and everything is scheduled to be done by 2036. So our working group ideas and concerns. So we have, there were some concerns about the typical year of rainfall might be short by 2036 and not sufficient at that time. Talked about opportunities for prospective measures such as the GROW program in handling the stormwater. Discuss municipal meetings and tunnel educational opportunities during construction. Also, community outreach to municipalities who might not be aware of funding resources and the projects that engineers might know of, or contractual engineers that they have in their communities. So more public outreach about that, which I think everybody has been talking about. That ALCOSAN engineers recommend GROW projects to municipalities. ALCOSAN goes to municipalities for projects and seeks funding and completes the projects, and possible enhancements like biodigesters, electrical charging stations, and trails. So what we have listed for follow-ups from this meeting were to assist municipal elected officials on discussions with their engineers on the GROW program. Possible ALCOSAN engineers assisting smaller municipalities to identify GROW projects. Three Rivers Wet Weather to continue to do outreach with smaller and underfunded municipalities. Heidelberg said they could reach out to their state senator to highlight attention to some of these issues. Legislator discussions on consent, order affordability, and possible future order funding. And again, I think this is Mayor Ken, share customer assistance program information with Heidelberg to increase ratepayers participation. And then we're also going to talk about setting a next date for our next meeting. So we will have an upcoming meeting.
Thank
That's
you.
it.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
Karen.
much.
Sure.
Okay, next on the agenda, we're looking for some updates from our basins. Yes.
On next steps.
Oh, I'm
Sounds
sorry.
like 4 of the groups indicated they might want to continue to meet. Regionalizations that they didn't need to meet, right?
It's moving along. Regionalization is just, I can remember when it was just a piece of paper. And it was only 180 miles or something.
So if the committees want to, working groups want to continue to meet, I can set those meetings up the same way with. I think we should Microsoft Teams on Friday, between 1:30 and 2:30.
Yeah, that works.
Okay.
Yep.
I mean, the reports are fairly robust, so it's generating conversation.
I'll schedule on a regionalization. To make
And just so you can like humble brag about how many more miles we got under agreement. That's good, go like that.
All right, next was I apologize about the updates from the basins. Lisa, did you have a report?
I had something, I don't know if anybody else does, but,
Yeah, you're
yeah.
gonna pull that up.
Yeah, if you could go to page 22 on that report. So for those of you who, Dora was on our committee and other folks are aware that at Sawmill Run, we do have an integrated watershed management plan. And we are working on a master plan. Currently, it's almost complete. We contracted with EPD and we had funding from RK Mellon and DCNR to do a master plan for greening along Sawmill from 88 to the west end. And so we've really characterized the issues along this corridor, and we identified 6 priority areas. Go to page 24 from there. And this will show the 6 priority areas. And the first one is at the west end. It's at the Wabash Park there. The next one is Seldom Seen Greenway. Number 3 on there, the dot is what we call a bathtub in south of Woodruff, and it's the place that always was. If you're going to get stuck in traffic anywhere, that's one of the main places. The red, white, and blue thrift store at the bottom of Bousman, and Ansonia Place, which is formerly a neighborhood that was FEMA buyout. And the property is owned by the city of Pittsburgh, and it is adjacent to the South Busway stop. And then finally, Accomondo Center, which is the firehouse, and it's a historic building. So we're looking at these areas and saying, well, what are the possibilities along here to make improvements in the corridor that are visible, but also that will reduce flooding and reduce impacts on the stream, because the stream has a TMDL on it. So the great thing about this plan is it's designed to work and complement the integrated watershed management plan. So the integrated watershed management plan was completed in 2019, and that gave sort of a complete overview of the watershed and all of the issues that impact the stream and what the communities could possibly do. This plan actually comes up with some specific projects so that these 2 plans together can then work synergistically and to positively impact the stream and the actual neighborhoods around Sawmill. So we're very excited about moving forward with this, and it's in draft and review. The city DOMI is looking at it, the city planning is looking at it, and DPW is looking at it. PennDOT has been at the table, PWSA has been at the table, community members have been at the table. We had a bus tour of the watershed, and folks from ALCOSAN were on that. We also had coverage from Channel 4. We were very excited about that, and we had 2 workshops that a lot came out, like a lot of things that PennDOT has on their plate that thinking of doing that nobody knew about, that were just sort of like, oh wow. And Darla, you'll be pleased to know that we've had for continuing meetings on the trestle.
Well, I know, Matt,
So that update.
yeah, Matt keeps me informed, we've read a letter of support for the DCNR grant, yeah.
Well, actually, we have another meeting with PennDOT. They're very excited to continue the conversation. What came out of this was that there's an abandoned, one of the things that came out of our workshops was there's an abandoned rail line that crosses 376 that could connect the riverfronts to all the neighborhoods in the south. And it's, we all thought that it was owned by the railroads, but it's owned by PennDOT. And PennDOT was planning to demolish the trestle, but now we're in conversations to keep it and create a trail network that really starts to connect folks in the South Hills in ways that they haven't been able to connect in the past. So that's what's happening in our basin.
Lisa, is PennDOT's role primarily to kind of make 51 safer?
Those are our recommendations. Like we're looking at safety along the corridor, we're looking at greening the corridor, we're looking at access to the stream. We're looking at basically it's a corridor of corridors.
Yeah.
Because we've got 51, we've got the T, we've got the busway, we've got the stream. So we're looking at it holistically, and a lot of the recommendations that are coming out of it are how to move forward with policy changes to really positively impact this area that's been long neglected, as everybody knows.
When I was at Penn Future, we pulled together engineers, architects, environmental leaders, et cetera, to develop an alternative to the non-conservation. Do you have? Because there may still be some
Yeah,
good ideas.
and they looked at, EPP has looked at all of the previous plans, including the integrated watershed management plan. And looking at this in a way that we've also, DCNR requires us to prioritize these 6 sites. So we did that at the last meeting. We prioritized those because that's something that they required. And safety, transportation, accessibility, all of those things are required in this plan. But this is not a typical, like their typical master plans are for parks. These are not their typical kind of plans. So we've had ongoing conversations with them to say, oh, that they're going to give their, gold star to it, and then it's going to all the city departments to make sure that it's acceptable by that. But the great thing about this is these projects could be, if we start to really dig down into engineering, these projects could be something that the municipalities could share, the watershed municipalities could cost share on some of these and get credit for their pollution reduction plans and their TMDL plans.
They did cost share with the city because it's just the city.
Right. I mean, we understand that. I mean, that's one of the things with a lot of the communities. The city's the only place that has the space to do some of these things. So, I mean, the last meeting that we had about the integrated watershed management plan, one of the engineers said, where can I sign? Because they don't have any space there. They have a really small community. There's no green space. There's no possible way for them to have a large enough project that is going to be impactful.
Thank you. Anybody else have any news from their basin? Nope. All right, thank you. We're gonna go into our staff updates now, and I think Tim is gonna go first. Bro, sure.
I'll make my section fairly quick, because Lisa did such a wonderful job about the growth, working group. Right now, cycle 8 we received our letters of interest. The letters of interest have been reviewed. We've identified the projects we're going to invite for cycle 8. those letters, I won't, there, Julia. Cycle.
What's happening?
Wait, letters.
Clicking for Tim.
Nothing.
Especially when I was monitoring Elon, where this young woman had to do the PowerPoint for these two older engineers. And I was just a little bit like, Danielle, weren't you in that one? Yeah. Mhm.
Well, fortunately, that's not this case.
Okay.
We're going to send the letters out next week. And Grow Second Late is moving on. And in the meantime, we're encouraging our customer municipalities to reach out and start collaborating on future cycles for future projects, so we could get that last third of the money spent wisely.
How many projects for Cycle 8?
We will invite 15, 3 will be declined.
3 will be, what's the flow reduction since?
We don't
That's why we
know,
do this.
it's too early to determine the flow reduction, and we can. I believe the value of all the projects is roughly about 20 million. But a lot of them are I&I projects and they tend to have a lower match. So, but we'll find out more coming into June. That's it for me. Oh, nice, Julia. She will use that remote control.
Okay, good.
Good.
She's looking out to you.
Not working.
I'm curious, Tim, about this. You know, I mean, having read, starting at the university, completing the source and all the sources that you guys have done. Are those wet areas that you identified, are they being addressed?
Yeah, when the areas that we identified in those studies, and then subsequently through ALCOSAN's investment in like flow monitoring programs that we did for the municipalities, we identified a lot of projects.
Right.
You know, and controlling the source, we identified a bunch of green projects. The flow monitoring programs, we identified areas where there's high infiltration. So we've identified where the projects can go. Now it's just up to the municipalities to say where is it that we want to put our monies in. And you know, one of the biggest ones was before Julia took on regionalization. She took on regionalization streets running.
Right.
And that was a massive project that we believe will have a huge impact, and it helps ALCOSAN because they do their defect repairs, reduces the infiltration, helps them with the consent order agreements, and it helps us, you know, down by streets run because yeah, it's going to get impacted by the interim well weather plan, but that's 16 years from now. Right now, it's going to have impact. So yeah, we've been doing a lot.
And our municipalities have been doing a lot. So last year, this map just showed the lines that were eligible for transfer and the facilities eligible for transfer, and not a whole lot of progress. As Darla mentioned earlier, we've been doing a lot of communication. And now you can see all of the municipal boundaries that are highlighted there. Those are our customers that have passed resolutions indicating they're ready to participate in transfer. So this is just a ton of work by our municipalities, and a big thank you to Three Rivers Wet Weather, because they've been instrumental in putting together a lot of those multi-municipal meetings to help facilitate this progress. Then you'll see also on the map, the lines that are in orange, that's where we're in the final stages of transfer. All the lines that are in purple are the ones that have transferred. So it's very exciting to see that we now have about 12 miles of sewer that have fully been transferred in ownership over to ALCOSAN. I'm going to scoot up here. I think we can do a little better quicker. Close to the black. And then we did want to discuss the options of getting those municipalities. It might be a little bit, everybody's kind of falling into two general buckets where they have their defect repairs completed. And they're just going through the administrative process where we look at the defect repair documentation, make sure that everything is to standard, and then support them through the DEP permitting transfer application and then finally executing that transfer agreement. For the other municipalities that typically might have some budgeting constraints, they like a different option that is more streamlined in its approach. And it gives them that budget certainty where we look at what defects are left. We don't actually make those defects. We negotiate with the municipality the fair price for the obligation for those defect repairs, agree to that price up front, so they have clear budget certainty. And then we complete the transfer process the sewer has in. Those come along over to ALCOSAN and we will ultimately make those fixes and repairs. So we want to make sure that the municipalities, a lot of the comments we're hearing at this point is what happens next. We're on board with transfer, then what does it look like? So, you know, the sewers are kind of a part of the identity of a lot of these communities. So we want to make sure you know that you're in good hands, you have good resources, and that's when we really have been showing you the capabilities of our collection system operation and maintenance group. So, thank you, Nate.
Hello, everybody. I'm Nate Carl, manager of Interceptor Systems. I've been in touch with a few of you recently regarding some of the work we've been doing in your communities with conditions assessments and just getting in there and taking a look at what we're getting into. Who are we? Our group, our maintenance group, consists of about 50 people. We have various crews that travel by land, by boat. We have maintenance crews that visit our facilities every day to maintain the facilities, but also report back on what those facilities look like. And ultimately make sure that the water gets from out there back to the plant. As I mentioned, we have camera crews that perform manhole condition assessments, as well as we have a thing called a rover, which is basically a remote control car that we drive through the pipes and view the condition inside the pipes. Our boat crew visit structures along the rivers that are not readily accessible by vehicle. In addition to that, we have supervisors that oversee those crews, a superintendent, an admin, and myself. Like I said, our general roles and responsibilities is to maintain the system. That's all aspects of it outside the plant. We report back daily, or back basically every time we visit a structure. That visit is recorded, it's GPS located, the structure condition is located, and we gather mountains of data nearly every day. Actually every day on the various structures. And we visit, I guess, daily between 250 and 300 structures a day, which is the majority of our system. Our group also does things like when we have the CSO SO cohorts, our group puts up the flags out in the field. When calls come in, we do a lot of the investigation from calls from the public, and we document that. In-house, we use our Vector trucks and our combo trucks to help do things around the plant. In addition to maintaining the system, we also, when we visit the facilities, we mow grass, we remove snow, we put down salt, we clean up garbage. We try to make it look as nice as possible. As we're out in the system and we're working on contracts and regional conveyance, our group works with the contractors to do things like open and close gates so that we don't have contractors out there working without our knowledge. In addition to some of those things I just mentioned, we also help out with the water quality sampling. Our boat crews take out the folks that sample the water. As I said earlier, we document everything. We're using the newest and best tools in ArcGIS, and everything we do is basically documented somewhere on a map, and that history for that location is well documented. And with that, we summarize reports. I look at trends. I look at the data coming in all day, and I try to figure out what happens where in the system when we got this kind of weather. And ultimately, we prepare monthly and semi-annual and various reporting that we send out to the agencies. But like I said earlier, our main goal is to make sure the water gets from out there into here. And Jeff can talk about what happens when it gets here.
doing it from start on, but for the 12 and the pump stations and Saturdays.
People do you have need to work for you?
Approximately 50, it varies, depending on seniority and where people are needed. I mean, there's sometimes we have temporary transfers and it bounces back to the 45.
There's a lot of inspections on a daily basis, so I completely applaud that. That's a lot of work.
And I could go on for hours about the stuff that our people do, but.
So you're to the right group, but it's like a few things that I'd like to hear a lot more about that. That sounds so cool.
Well, I want them to take by eminent domain April's area.
Please.
There's no commitment. Nobody has committed anything. Okay, I'll stop. It was not true, Max.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stricken from the record.
Yeah, strike that.
All right. Not the minutes.
You just gotta keep your eyes on her.
I want the railroad. Is what I- See that railroad?
Yes.
You can have it.
It has a train on to go.
So to wrap up the staff updates, as Nate alluded to, all that flow that gets collected and conveyed ends up at the treatment flow. So what we're gonna wrap up today is a virtual tour of the plant. And again, if you were at the ALCOSAN luncheon, it's very similar. One thing to keep in mind is we're going through this virtual tour is what the main goal of the plant expansion program is we're more than doubling the capacity of our treatment plant. And you can see outside the window what's going on. So we'll start with what's going on at the plant as of today. And we'll start by approaching the plant just as you all did, driving in at the southeast corner. So as we proceed north, which is the same direction our plant flows go, on the left side of your screen, you see our first construction site. That's right outside the window. That's our East Headworks site. Then you see our primary tanks. Those are those covered tanks with the blue piping on top. And as we continue north, we're approaching our aeration tanks. That's the beginning of secondary treatment. So now we're approaching the McKees Rocks Bridge. And as you look over the bridge, you see our circular clarifiers. That's the continuation of secondary treatment. And then as we approach the bridge, we're going to turn left to our final process. That's our disinfection tank along the river. We're going to pause it here. That white plume in the river, that's our outfall. That's the one location that we discharge our treated flows out to the river today. But it'll be a point of discussion in my presentation today. So here we've got a video image of what that site looked like in 2016. There was an O&M garage out there. Obviously that building is no longer there today. So the next image is going to be 2023 as we're approaching it from the north. We're above the aeration tanks, but that blue piping, just to tell you what exactly that is, that's part of our odor control system. And that was built about 20 years ago. And it's the main reason why the odor complaints around our sewage treatment plant have gone towards zero over the last 20 years. So we are approaching that East Headworks site right outside the window, and we're going to pause it right above our two tower crates. Now, remember, the main goal of our plant expansion is doubling the treatment capacity at the plant. And when I say that, we're talking flows. This is preliminary treatment, and we currently have a peak flow of 250 million gallons per day. By the end of 2029, we're going to increase that from 250 to 600 million gallons per day. That's that more than doubling I was talking about. So next, we have a time lapse of what this site looked like. September of 2021, that's about when we broke ground. The hole is about 20 feet deep now. A lot of earthwork at the beginning, a lot of dirt moving. But eventually you start seeing these little circles at the bottom. That's the beginning of our foundation of the building that it's going to sit on. Those are our auger gas piles. You see in the middle of last year, that's the middle of the screen, that's our first tower crane showed up. And then eventually you see our second one. That's the one right outside our window right here. But now we're getting a lot closer to today. You see a lot of rebar, a lot of concrete. You see, I mean, even out here, it's even more updated. But as it gets to the end, it's going to pause with a red box over here. That's where we're going to go to next. We're going to be right above it. And what we're highlighting here is we're actually going opposite the flow of the treatment flows. What this is going to be is this is the future 120-inch conduit. That's 10 feet. That's going to convey the flows from our main pump station to this new East Headworks. The pump station, that's the low point in the treatment process. That's You're taking flows from a much lower elevation, our interceptors, and you're pumping it up to the surface so that it's a lot more cost effective to treat right below the surface as opposed to 100 feet deep. So that bend, that's approaching our main pump station. Next up, we have an image of 2016 approaching our main pump station from that same angle. And if you came on our tour last year, if you've been on a different tour, this is the low point in Allegheny County. It's about 100 feet deep. But the other thing to highlight about our main pump station is this red brick. It's the classic ALCOSAN architecture that we really try to stay loyal to. Even some of our newer buildings that we're building as a part of this plant expansion, we're making sure to tie in that historical architectural element into anything built in the view of the public. We want to make sure that we're bringing that same ambiance. So now we are north of the McKees Rocks Bridge. We are seeing those circular secondary clarifiers where secondary treatment continues, and we're approaching our other very large construction project, the North End plant expansion. And eventually when we get to the end, it's going to pause and there's going to be another red box. What that is behind there, but it's the future outfall. That outfall that I highlighted at the beginning is going to be relocated to this new location once the North End plant expansion is completed at the end of 2025. So here we have another time lapse of the North End. It started, I think, about March of 2022, so about a year ago. What you're going to see is those two concrete tanks that you saw in the last image come to life. We have one of our two circular clarifiers in the foreground, and then in the background, you slowly see that disinfection tank work its way towards us. So as of today, the enclosures of those two tanks are complete. So now we're going south, and we're right above that new disinfection tank. And the one thing I really want to highlight are these circles along the river. That's our river wall. I mean, we've been talking about that for over a year now. We finished that in November of 2021, but it's an impressive structure that really is worth highlighting. It's over 1,000 feet in length. And what those circles are, those are king piles that are anywhere from 60 to 72 inches in diameter. So that's about how tall I am. And you got them laid out side by side to make that river wall, to set that boundary between our construction site and the Ohio River. So our circular clarifiers, we currently have 16. Under the North End plant expansion, we're going to add 2 more to bring us to a total of 18. That's going to help us get to that additional flow capacity. And we're going to pass by the McKees Rocks Bridge one more time, and we're going to focus on our disinfection tank. This is the better view of it from the river. This is the final process currently, and we have 2 boxes that we're going to show. One is going to be the existing outfall that I highlighted at the beginning. That's the one that's being relocated to the North End. Once that is relocated, though, we're going to have a different plant expansion project. It's going to start later this year, where we're going to reconfigure our existing chlorine contact tank to go the opposite direction. And we're going to be establishing a second outfall to account for that additional flow capacity. So that's about it for the plant tour today. It's a lot to pack into 6 minutes. So hope you guys enjoyed it. But we have a 59-acre site, and this is probably one of the better views of it from the southwest corner, where you get to see our construction, but also our entire process. So thank you. That's it for our staff updates.
Anna, thank you very much. I have to say, I'm always impressed with the enthusiasm of the staff here. No matter what subject it is, I mean, we're all talking sewage. Whatever angle of that particular subject you're talking about, you seem to be very enthusiastic about it. So I appreciate that. I'm sure we all do. We have any business this evening? Nope. All right. And no public comment? All right, then we're ready to adjourn. I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
Madam Chairman, motion to adjourn, Ken Lasota.
Second,
Oh, we lost it.
we have a second? Second. All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
The next meeting is July 26th. Thank you all.